And this is the hardest decision that I've ever had to make, but it's one of the best decisions that I've had to make as well. To be in this position, to have the career that I've had, I can't do nothing but smile on it. So this decision is not easy. And I've asked myself why and why not and what not and all these things. And I've heard everything from my family to my fans around the world of what I should and shouldn't do. But I've always did things my way. Whether they've been good or whether they've been bad, I got here because I've done things the way that I feel is right for me and that was right for my family. And what I feel is right to ask you guys to join me for one last dance, for one last season. This is it. I've given this game everything that I have, and I'm happy about that. And I'm going to give it for one last season, everything else I have left. And when I walk away, I'm still going to love it. I'm still going to want to play it. I'm still going to miss the playoff moments. I'm still going to miss the crowd cheering my name. I'm still going to miss 20,000 booing for me. I said booing for me because that's what they're doing. But I ask y'all, let's enjoy it. Let's have some joy through this last season. Let's push this young team over the hump, and let's write our own story to the end of this career together. Season 1-6, internally we call it Sweet 16. It's coming to an arena real soon.
If you hadn't heard that yet, that was released on Sunday night from Dwyane Wade's Twitter account, roughly 10 p.m. Dwyane Wade makes the decision that he's returning to the Miami Heat for one season and one season only. I'm Ethan Skolnick here, as always, with Chris Whittingham. Chris and I knew that one of these emergency pods was coming. We didn't know that it was going to happen late on a Sunday night after the Dolphins had one of their best days in ages, but as I tweeted tonight, Chris, from the @5Reasons Sports account, Dwyane has been upstaging the Miami Dolphins since 2003. So this is really nothing new. And Dwyane gets the floor from us tonight. We'll obviously be posting an episode about the Dolphins' win against the Jets here going forward. But this is the biggest news in this town because it is the biggest star in this town, even at age 36, deciding that he wants to play one more season for the Heat. I did see him, Chris, on Friday night. I went to the second soft opening of the 800 Degrees pizza place. It's more than just a pizza place. It's kind of an upscale Anthony's is what I would call it, that he's opening with Udonis Haslem and Aventura. We did not talk about basketball at all. We kind of joked about everything else, including my daughter making fun of me and all sorts of other things. But I will say this, Chris, he seemed really relaxed on Friday night, and I mentioned that to a lot of different people. It didn't seem like basketball was really on his mind, and maybe it's because he'd already come to this conclusion, because clearly might have taken a couple days to put that video together. We're going to play the rest of it here, Chris, at the very end of the episode. So we're going to start it from the beginning. It was around 9 minutes, but we wanted to get to some of our commentary.
It's quite a journey, wasn't it?
It was. He took a while. I'll say this. Everybody talked about the decision and Jim Gray, but Dwyane almost made it to a full hour there with this introduction, and it is worth listening to. So we did put it at the back end of the pod, and you can hear it there. But I'll get to some of my thoughts. I posted a lot of them on Twitter, but just, Chris, your initial reaction to this.
Yeah, and I feel like the video being 10 minutes and going through all these ups and downs and all these different trajectories does probably illustrate the thought process of Dwyane Wade. I feel like there is kind of a cynicism throughout this whole process of, well, how hard can this be? How hard can it be to decide either I want to retire or I want to keep playing? But I feel like all the thoughts that are kind of flying through his head that come out extemporaneously in this video kind of capture a man's legitimate conflict about whether or not he wants to go through traveling for 6 months a year and being away from his family and working hard and doing all the work that it takes for 36-year-old Dwyane Wade to be ready. And is it worth it to play for a team that probably won't win the championship? So my sort of thought process was, I saw the length of it, like 10 minutes. My goodness. How much more do you have left to say other than I'm returning for my last season? But I think you kind of heard there from Dwyane just how difficult this was for him and how there was legitimate conflict. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of boiled it down to either you retire or you play, and you could have decided this on July 1st. But clearly it took Dwyane Wade stomping on grapes in Napa Valley and going on European vacations to really sort out his thoughts and talking to a lot of people and figuring out whether or not this is worth it for him. I can tell you this. I really think it makes this upcoming year really interesting because I wouldn't have thought that the Heat would be a retirement tour kind of team. I think the Lakers kind of established that corner for themselves as we're going to be the team that treats our legends well. And as much as the Heat obviously are known for being a first-class organization and treating players well after retirement, this isn't really a team that, is going to go on the road and get 29 gifts from 29 opponents as Dwyane Wade makes his way around the country, but they're going to be that team this year, and I feel like that'll be the predominant narrative anytime he has a big moment in a big game. The game becomes about Dwyane Wade, and I wouldn't have thought that he would be up for it, but obviously they offered him to come back, and Dwyane Wade is sort of made it known this is my last year. You will see an out-and-out retirement tour, and has been noted in many places that last home game against Philadelphia is already reselling for a massive dollar amount. Dwyane Wade's last regular season home game is going to be an occasion. Obviously, whenever that last playoff home game will be an occasion as well, presuming the Heat make the playoffs. But yeah, I think the thought process was fascinating. The fact that it took him so long to finally make the decision, and the fact now that the Heat are basically going to be predominantly oriented around a retirement tour this year. I find both of those things really interesting.
Yeah, and I think we can eliminate a couple of things here. Clearly, China was never really in his thought process, and clearly the Lakers were not either. So we always talked about there being 4 options for him: play with the Heat, play in China, play with LeBron, or retire. And I think he was only considering 2 during the entire process, because if he was laboring this much about whether to play in a place he lives, he wasn't going to the other end of the world to sign a 3-year contract. So I think we can just sort of wipe that out. That wasn't going to happen. And going to chase a championship. And look, the Lakers are not playing for a championship this year, but going to play with LeBron in Los Angeles, not a possibility. So it came down to 2 things, Chris. And I think, what it comes down to here, you talk about a retirement tour. Dwyane told me repeatedly, privately, publicly, whatever, that he didn't want that. We talked a lot about what Kobe did, and he didn't want that. And so I don't know that it's going to resemble that. I don't think Dwyane has the profile, and he knows it. He doesn't have the profile that Kobe does from a national perspective. I mean, he's, arguably the 3rd best shooting guard of all time, and Kobe is regarded as the 2nd. But is it about that, or is it about the fact that, frankly, a marketing standpoint, if you're an opponent of the Heat, if you're the Denver Nuggets and the Heat are coming to town, you kind of make it about Dwyane Wade, don't you? And I feel like he does have enough kind of cachet for it to be not necessarily up to Dwyane. And that's kind of my curious thing when you say that he wasn't up for a retirement tour, is that it's not really Dwayne's decision. It's really about the opponents and what the Heat decide to do and how far they take this. Well, it is, but it is his decision to a degree. If he's not really game for it, I don't think other organizations will do it as publicly. Like, there's not going to be rocking chairs like there was for Kareem. Like, that's not going to happen here. Yeah, you mentioned Denver. I don't know that it'll be Denver. Dwyane spurned them a couple of years ago, but yeah, who knows? There's other places. I mean, we'll see how that goes in Chicago or Cleveland, right? Like, those 2 stops didn't go all that well. But when you look at his situation, again, it's something that he didn't really want to be sort of celebrated in that way. But you talk about the Heat's position on this, and they were stuck in sort of a weird place. And so I sort of understand where they were. Okay, on one hand, as I've said before on the pod, I know people inside there who have told me that ticket sales were slow, much slower than usual. And there's a lot of people that I've talked to who are just fans who had ticket renewals that were coming up a year from now and we're not going to be renewing. And so I do feel from a marketing standpoint, you go beyond the merchandise, but just filling the building in any significant way, that this will help. And I feel like an idiot because I had a hunch that this was going to happen, probably should have bought up some seats before it happened, but I guess that would be insider trading, right? So I guess it's better that I didn't. But with that being, I don't work for a newspaper anymore, but with that being said, they were in a strange position here because I don't think they wanted a farewell tour. I agree with you on that. It's not what they do. And at the same time, I feel like they need him right now because they're stuck in between. They have interesting young players that the fans like, but don't really know what they are yet, right? Like, except our guys, Justice better, right? Like at Miami Heat beat. Like the rest of the fan base is like, okay, Josh Richardson's a nice player. We still think Justice has potential. Bam showed some things last year. Okay, but you're not building.
And even then, like, that's your hardcore basketball fan that's going to be with you no matter what. Your casuals that are filling the lower bowl are not particularly intrigued by young players developing. They're interested in what the Miami Heat scene has been for as long as Pat Riley has been here, which is we compete for championships, we play in big games, we play in big stages, we are relevant. I don't think this Heat team has any of that.
Well, that was the big issue. And the older players that they have, or the more veteran players, are all signed to contracts that the fans don't like. So, even if they might like the player, they don't like the contract. And I feel a couple of those guys, like Tyler, for instance, who I think is liked by the fans, but the contract has changed the narrative on him. Hassan's a little bit of a different deal. And James Johnson, I don't feel like they know that well yet. And Dion, was not available all last year. So you kind of have this issue where you needed Dwyane, his star power, to sell tickets this year and to buy them some time until they figure out how to get out of the mess that they made a summer ago. And that's really where they are. And so, I think they needed him more than he needed them at this stage. I think that's what comes across. Yeah, right. I mean, that comes across in the video. Like, I not that he's doing them a favor, but this sort of mends all the fences,
isn't he?
Well, he is, but it mends all the fences, Chris, because basically if you had any issues about the way that he left for Chicago, we're going to join LeBron in Cleveland. I mean, this is, by my count, the 5th time he's taken less money than he could. Now, I'm not saying that some other team is going to offer him, more than like part of the mid-level, but he probably could have gotten something like that somewhere else, I believe.
He certainly could have made more in China.
He could have made a lot more in China, and he's certainly worth a lot more than $2.4 million to the Heat. I mean, he's worth 4 or 5 times that.
I almost wish that there was like a way in which each NBA team could have a slot that didn't count against the cap, but they can kind of pay whatever you want, because there isn't a dollar amount that Dwyane Wade isn't worth to the Heat, particularly in a retirement season where there's scarcity, right? So now a Heat fan's going into the season thinking, I've got 41 chances at a minimum left to see Dwyane Wade play basketball. That scarcity is going to make that building really fun to be at this year, just because I feel like there's going to be that level of appreciation that I don't think you really get a chance to see. And I think that's one of the cool things about there being a retirement season is that you get to put aside salary cap implications, you get to put aside the future, you get to put aside basketball considerations, and just be appreciative of a player who's probably been, at the very least, one of the 2 best athletes in the history of the city, if not the best athlete in the history of the city. And I feel like that level of appreciation just doesn't happen in sports very often.
No, it doesn't. And you're right. I mean, they should have a slot like that for guys like Dirk or like Tim Duncan and others who for other teams had to take less money to stick around. And now Dwyane has taken less money again at the very end, $2.4 million. And he's also saved them a lot of money on the luxury tax. And, he's given them an opportunity for Andy and Pat to work something out before the end of the season to clear out someone, okay, whether it's Dion or whether it's Tyler or Hassan, somebody, or James Johnson, somebody who clears out some money so that they can get under the tax, which I know that they want to do. So he's made it easy for them. And like I said, he needed them less than they needed him. And so I just don't think there can be any hard feelings at all, if there were any anymore after he came back last year. I feel like a lot of that evaporated. But there still were some whispers, Chris. There were people out there this offseason who were like, does he want more money? Does he want more years? What's he holding out for? Is he holding the franchise hostage? Are they going to get asked at media day about him instead of about the direction of the team? I mean, now he's kind of done right by everybody. And they've done right by Udonis, bringing him back for another year when he's likely not going to play a ton of minutes. And I know that was important to Dwyane. That was a big issue for Dwyane. It's been a big issue for Dwyane for the last 3 or 4 years. And so I just think everybody feels good about this. Like I said, the other day he was relaxed. We're going to get into the basketball implications, a little bit later. But again, from a franchise perspective, Evan Cohen made a point here on Twitter. Evan Cohen from ESPN in West Palm, and Evan follows the team very closely, as you know. And Evan made the point that this does buy them time to figure things out, because they failed this offseason again, right? Like they not failed to get other players. There wasn't really an option, but they failed to clear anything out. Okay, so I was going back on this, Chris. Like, you can make a case, and some of our guys at Heat Beat challenged me on this, because they said you can make a case they had a good offseason in 2015. Okay, the year after LeBron left, that they because they had a good draft, right? They had they drafted Richardson, they drafted Winslow, and so it looked a little better. But you can make a case they haven't had a really good offseason since 2012, okay, since they added Ray Allen. Like, that's the last time they had a really good offseason. And the year before, where they added Shane Battier, and then obviously the year before, where they
added
had
that LeBron guy.
Yeah, LeBron and Bosh. Well, yeah, those two guys, and they retained Chalmers. That was bigger.
The big one.
But well, actually, he was still under contract. But yeah, they haven't had good offseason in a long time. And I'm watching the Dolphins today, and I think you and I both agreed the Dolphins had a good offseason this past offseason, and that's kind of playing out. Like everything the Dolphins did this offseason so far has worked.
Yeah.
I mean,
when everyone thought that it was a flaming disaster, that it was a tire fire letting their big names go.
Well, I would say everyone. I would say the national media that didn't pay any attention. The guys in our network, you liked it. I liked it. 3 yards per carry liked it. All 3 of those guys liked it. I think others in our network liked it because if you knew the team, you understood the 3 guys they were losing could all be replaced and that they were picking up guys who fit better at a lower cost. And all of those guys have played well, and then Sitton got hurt. He's the only one that you're not really going to know about this year. But the other 4 primary guys were critical in them winning today. So the Heat have not, for all the talk about the Heat and Riley and all the rest, they haven't had a good offseason like that in a long time. And this kind of salvages the offseason to a certain degree, right? It just extends last year. You see if everybody's healthy. And so it is a feel-good moment. And so it's a good day for the Heat when you have not had a lot of good days lately. And it buys them some time, as Evan said, to try to clean out something, okay? And I want to get to the basketball stuff after we go to this break because that's a big part of this to me. But that's what it does for them. People will be excited for opening night. And I think Dwyane can still play. That's the other thing. Like, he was the only guy during the playoffs that was a plus. Now, I know it's a 5-game sample size, but he was the only guy on the team that was a plus. He wasn't a plus necessarily during the season, but he had enough moments. And, there were a couple of sort of tweets out there today. It's kind of tweet I thought you might send, but you did not. There were a couple of tweets out there today about –
I was lucky to be working.
Well, right. Well, the question was whether it would be you or Nikias that would be the one to send out this kind of tweet. Nikias held his fire, and I'm looking on Twitter right now. I put up a poll. I said, who's going to be the first in our network to rain on the Wade parade? And I believe Nikias had 47%. You had 40%, and Christian Hernandez of Heat Beat, the Maple Rick, had 13%. So you're not winning that poll.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, Nikias is winning. But there was somebody who put it out there who said, I can't wait till Dwyane is, 12 points, 4 assists, and shooting 37%, and has one good game. Everybody says he's still got it. He didn't shoot 37% last year. Like, what did he shoot? He was in the 40s, right? He was like,
but I guess the question is it out of the realm of possibility that it falls off that quickly? Because it does, right? In the NBA, it does. Now, I don't think the Heat really allow that to happen just based off their conditioning program. And you'd imagine if Dwyane is going to come back, he's not going to certainly be lazy about it. But it's happened before where even all-time greats don't look the same one year to the next, one offseason to the next. And is it out of the realm that in a year in which he was considering retirement that maybe he wasn't necessarily putting in the same level of work that he would in an average offseason? I mean, it's possible. I don't think that it's probable. I don't think the Heat really allow that stuff to happen. But, I mean, aging is a man. Like, it can happen in this kind of a scenario where you think that, Dwyane Wade off a good playoff performance, he's going to come back and have at least a decent season in his final year. But aging happens, and it's unrelenting. And I wouldn't say that it's likely to happen, and I don't think it will happen, but it could.
It could, and we've seen it happen. To me, the best example is Allen Iverson, who led the league in scoring at age 32 and was cooked by 34. Mm-hmm. So it does happen. But a couple of things here: Dwyane's taking better care of his body than Allen Iverson. I mean, he had a few glasses of wine the other night, but he didn't start drinking even until like 2 years ago. And he has generally taken better care of his body than Iverson did, who was notorious for showing up to shoot around,
smelling like tequila.
Yeah, a little bit out there. I mean, that's the whole, that was the home court advantage that the Heat had, right? Where Iverson missed every single shoot around that he was ever at, in Miami after South Beach. I mean, Dwyane hasn't done that. So that's a big part of this. But also, I did see him the other night, and he looked good. Like, he didn't look. I mean, I've seen him enough over the last 15 years to know when he's out of shape. I mean, it doesn't mean he's in Heat basketball shape, but he's thin. I mean, he's thin. He's not. He does not look. There have been some times he's come to camp, and you can tell he's about 10 to 15 pounds above where he should be, and that was a big issue for Pat. I don't know what his body fat is, but he's not out of shape. I mean, Udonis is, my God. I mean, if you
ridiculous.
Think of, if you think of what, Udonis can't keep weight on anymore. Like, if you go back to Udonis when he came into the league, it's unbelievable. just or even is obviously his second or third.
How hard he works to play. Last year was like 74 minutes. How hard he works to be in that level of shape when he knows he's not going to play very much is incredible to me. I don't have the discipline in normal scenarios, but in a scenario in which I'm meant to be working as if I'm a 35-minute-a-game player and I'm not going to play and I'm still going to look like that, his commitment to the cause is unreal to me.
No, it is, but that's him. That's his whole personality, and he's driven Dwyane to a certain degree over the past few years to sort of get that way also. And so, I don't think he's going to fall off a cliff. I just think they have to use him properly. After the break, we're going to get into some of that and sort of the ways that they may do that. But I don't think it's going to be Iverson. I don't think it's going to be Pippen back in Chicago. I don't think it's going to be Ewing in Seattle. I mean, there's a lot of examples, man. You're right. I mean, there are a lot of examples of guys who just looked cooked. I mean, even it's funny. I think of Gary Payton with the Heat, right? He was just before he hit the edge there, right? He was not great that year, but he made the one shot. And then after that, it kind of went the other direction. He ended up bouncing around to ball. I mean, people don't even remember where Gary Payton ended his career. Shaq, right? I mean,
Shaq in Cleveland, yeah.
Shaq in Cleveland, Shaq in Boston. People forget he was in Boston. So it does, you're right, it happens quickly. But Dwyane has reinvented his game so many times that I don't know that he's going to go from where he was, last year, the type of game he had game 2 against Philadelphia, to not being able to play at all. I don't think you saw those signs last year. I think you just saw signs of a guy who needs to be managed. And I think they can do that. But after the break, we're going to get into how. We'll get back to the episode here in a second, but want to introduce you to another of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. As Dwyane Wade has learned through the ups and downs with the Miami Heat, every athlete needs a good team around him. The same is true for those in business. That's why more small to mid-sized businesses in South Florida are choosing Greenlight Tech, the full-service concierge IT company that absolutely every time gets it right. Greenlight Tech advises, monitors, supports, and keeps your important data backed up and secure. They will even manage your vendors for you. Call Greenlight Tech at 561-325-9997. That's 561-325-9997. Mention this ad and you get a free assessment. Sign up and your first month is free. Be unstoppable. GreenlightTech.com.
And today's episode is also brought to you by Doral Toyota, where you can find all your favorite Toyota models, whether you're looking for a new, used, or certified and pre-owned vehicle. Doral Toyota is located at 9775 Northwest 12th Street, just a few blocks from International and Dolphin Malls. Experience the Doral difference, which means 4 years complimentary maintenance and roadside assistance on all new vehicles. In-house financing is available for credit-related issues. Also, if you mention 5 Reasons when you call 305-680-1129 or come in, you will work with a dedicated manager, not a salesman. Unlike other dealers, Doral Toyota prides itself on an honest and transparent buying process. That's Doral Toyota, DoralToyota.com, or stop in at 9775 Northwest 12th Street. And now, back to the Dwyane Wade conversation.
All right, Chris, now let's get back to the Dwyane discussion and specifically the basketball part of this, because I put something again on Twitter tonight, bit of a thread over at 5 Reasons Sports, kind of getting into sort of the framework of this decision and how it affects the Heat. And like I said, this is a no-lose situation for the Heat. I mean, they had to do this. If Dwyane's willing to play for you for the minimum and you say no, that's not a good look, particularly with what the franchise has done the past couple of years. So they needed to change that whole dynamic. So let's get into how much he'll actually play. Now, I know there's been some stuff out there. There was a report on Basketball Talk, which was a total clickbait garbage piece about I guess taking a Greg Cody line out of context and saying that Dwyane had insisted on starting when Cody actually writes he had not insisted on starting. So I know some people got fooled by that one. I've not heard anywhere that he has demanded to start. He did accept a bench role when he came back to Miami. I know it's something that over the course of his career he kind of bristled at, but he, unlike Carmelo, has bought into that. But here's where they are at 2 guard right now. He's the 5th highest paid 2 guard on the roster. Okay.
Oh my God.
He's the 5th highest paid 2 guard. I'm just going to give you some numbers here. Let me see if I can find these here on the thread, which I had thrown up here. Basically, what I've said about the Heat's roster and salary chart is you basically could turn their salary chart upside down, and it would roughly correlate to the value to the franchise.
No.
It would. Do it. I mean, seriously, the guys they're trying to get rid of are their most highly paid guys. Okay, I'm not saying that they're worse guys, but just do the inverse. Okay, and I'm not saying Rodney Magruder is their most valuable player, but the rest of it, yeah, pretty much. I mean, the guys that they want to dump, okay, Hassan, Tyler, Dion, JJ, they're all making north of $10 million this year, and their other guys are not. Here's the 2-guard salaries on the team: Tyler Johnson at 19.2.
That number never gets less insane. It is an insane dollar amount.
Oh my God. Dwyane Wade's 11.6. As I've said repeatedly here on the pod and on Twitter, I've heard he's not going to be ready for camp. So what are we 10 days out?
I've heard similar things as well.
Yep. Yeah. I think you told me visually, and I checked it out with a couple people, and they were like, "There's no way." That was what I was told. There's no way. Josh Richardson, $9.3 million. That's a fair contract.
Really good value.
But again, he should be playing this position, but he can't because there's others. Wayne Ellington, 6'3" for 1 year. Again, I like the contract.
We're gonna have probably your best 3-point shooter by a fair amount.
By a fair amount, yes. Actually, we're going to have Wayne on the pod here with us later this week. So we're not just he's a great interview, and we're not just saying that because we're having him on the pod. We said it when they signed him. I like that deal. Dwyane Wade 2.4, Rodney Magruder 1.5. So Tyler's making more than Richardson, Ellington, Wade, and Magruder combined.
Crazy.
I'm just going to let that sit there.
Yeah, I mean,
and then Dion at 11.6. But so here are the issues as I see them. Okay, one is now Josh Richardson is definitely a 3, right? Like, I mean, there's no way you can put him at the 2 for any extended minutes. So
which is fine. I mean, it's all semantics anyway, and it's not like it's not like a bygone era where you're guarding guys who are 6'9" who are playing the 3. Like, for the most part, you're playing guys of similar size.
No, that's true. That's true. But Riley did say, I mean, Riley said it, not me. He said he's a 2. And they did not accomplish enough to allow him to play that position this year. So that's just not going to happen.
Do you fault them for it? Do you fault the Heat for not being able?
I fault them for 2017.
Oh, right, obviously. But I'm saying this offseason, like,
there's nothing they could do.
Like, I saw, I think it was tweeted to you, and it ended up in my mentions where it was like an NBA TV graphic of like offseason for every team, and it was additions none, subtractions none. Like, I feel like that's probably the right move. You don't want to be giving away first-round picks, and it felt like the Heat didn't really want to do a salary dump, so they roll it back again.
Right. No, this summer was not the problem. Last summer was the problem. And so, I mean, that's what put them in this position. All right, so when you look at the situation, you say Josh Richardson's not going to play the 2; he's going to be a 3. I'm saying Winslow's a 1 or a 4, basically. I mean, that's Justice is going to play some backup point, and he's going to play some backup 4 behind James Johnson. Maybe he starts ahead of James Johnson eventually, but that's where he is. So I'm not including him on this list. Ellington's not going to be a starter no matter what, but you want to try to get him 20 minutes because you don't know the night that he's going to get hot, and he's probably going to play some minutes late. So for right now, if Dion is not ready for the start of the season, your options to start at the 2 are Dwyane Wade or Tyler Johnson. And one's making $19.2 million and the other's making $2.4 million. And the fans are gonna go nuts if the guy who's making 2.4 is not the starter.
Well,
so
I mean, it was kind of like you would have thought that the fans would react negatively, but it did also kind of work out that he kind of got his own little ovation to himself at the 6-minute mark of every first quarter of every game. Here's Dwyane Wade. Like, it's sort of like I don't know if necessarily the fans are gonna go crazy if he doesn't start, but certainly he is the name on the marquee. He is the box office draw, and so you would think you'd want to start that guy, but I understand why Eric Spoelstra wouldn't want to have to take that into consideration.
But here's the other issue. So I don't think that they will force feed Tyler minutes to trade him, because I think what is valuable about Tyler is the contract expiring after the season after this one. And
that's why when you said earlier that Dwyane Wade being here buys them a year, that's what it buys them. It buys them, okay, we have to eat this year because we don't want to do a salary dump, but we feel like we can be a player next offseason once a lot of these contracts that we don't feel great about become expiring, and we can figure out a way to move off of $25 million for Hassan and $19 million for Tyler Johnson. If we can move off of that on an expiring deal, then we can feel good about it, particularly in an offseason where it seems like a lot of teams are going to be getting getting off of their 2016 terrible contracts.
Right. Yes, exactly. It buys them time. But I don't think they have to force feed Tyler minutes. Now, I do think they're going to want to force feed Deion minutes. I do. And for a couple of reasons. One is, I feel like they have to show he's healthy before they can trade him. And so if he comes back and he can get anywhere near, even if it's in more limited minutes, anywhere near that 2-month stretch that convinced them to give him 4 years in the first place, they're going to try to do that. And that's where the conflict comes in for me, and why I still think if Deion was healthy, there would be a chance they could try to move him in the next week. Okay, I'm not sure where, and I know people are going to talk about Jimmy Butler, and obviously as we release this pod, Butler's supposed to meet with Tibbs up in Minnesota to discuss his future. I don't know why Minnesota would have interest in Deion Waiters, but I mean, who knows? Okay, I don't know. If he forces a trade, I know Heat fans are getting all excited about this, but I just saw Butler, liked Wade's Instagram post,
and he just posted a picture of Dwyane Wade on his Instagram. This is currently in our 5 Reasons DM string as we speak. Jimmy Butler posts on Instagram, "This is going to be one hell of a dance at Dwyane Wade." And it's a picture of Dwyane Wade at American Airlines Arena. So Jimmy Butler putting the feelers out there, not even being subtle about it.
He is. But of course, that Butler-Wade team, maybe they might have won a first-round series if Rondo hadn't gotten hurt, but they did get bounced in the first round also. But anyway, so I think they're going to have to force-feed Deion some minutes. And the problem with that is if you want Dwyane to be the backup point in a lot of situations and give Goran a break so that Goran can play 32 to 34, and you can separate Dwyane and Goran a little bit, because we know that's been a bit of a struggle at times over the course of Goran's time here with Dwyane. And you're not going to play Winslow in that role, let's say, as much as maybe you would have. The problem is you're going to have to play Wade with Waiters some, and that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. I mean, our guy Nekias Duncan from Heatbeat, and I know people think he's a little too negative on this situation, but Nekias is as good as we have, okay, in terms of analyzing this stuff. And I mean, his word for that was disaster. So I just don't. It's just not going to work. I mean, you have two guys who are at their best with high usage. It's not a good fit. And Deion has become a better 3-point shooter, but you still don't have the kind of spacing that you'd want there. It's just, again, and defensively that would not work either at all. So that's what I don't know what Spoelstra is going to do here, and that's why I do think with Dwyane signing, it does lend a little credence to, okay, maybe there is something else coming here over the next week, or maybe if not over the next week, maybe over the next 2 to 3 months, so that they can clean some of this out, because I just don't know who the best option for Dwyane to play with is. Like Dragic, again, we've seen it's gotten better at times, but it's not ideal. Not good with Waiters, and that's not going to work. He's played some with Tyler. I guess that could work if they're both kind of playing a combo guard situation. But it's just, again, not a ton of great options. I guess he could play some with Ellington because Ellington can space for him. But how do you see that playing out?
I mean, I always kind of just imagine that there's going to be a finite amount of minutes. And for me, the Deion thing when he comes back is going to be really hard. You definitely know that Rodney McGruder is not going to play. But for me, how do you split up? Basically, you want to say 96 minutes of a position. Maybe you throw in an extra 10, you get to 106 between 5-6 guys. I don't know how that's going to work. My predictions is that Dwyane Wade's going to come off the bench and probably play a fair amount with Wayne Ellington, but then that's a defensive consideration. That's hard to work out. I don't know how. I think Eric Spoelstra's got a real job in his hands, particularly when Deion Waiters comes back. And how you work out a crunch time 5, I don't know. Is Deion Waiters and Dwyane Wade in it together? I think it really does come down to if those two guys can play together. If Dwyane Wade and Deion Waiters can play any amount of minutes together without the offense getting too clogged up, without an inability to defend, and that's something we haven't seen yet. And I'm kind of looking forward to it because it is kind of the lineup combination that can really unlock this team looking a bit better than we might expect, but that's what it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be Dwyane Wade and Deion Waiters playing together. It's going to have to be Dwyane Wade and Tyler Johnson playing together. That's a bit more complimentary, but it's going to have to be combinations and trios of very small lineups if you're going to get everyone the amount of minutes that, frankly, their salaries deserve, and in Dwyane Wade's case, what he's here for deserves.
The problem with it, of course, is that this is a league where you have wings. I know you said there's not a lot of wings for a 6'9", but there's a lot of two guards that are 6'6", 6'7".
Sure.
And one of the Heat's issues is they can't switch anything. Like the really good teams in this league can switch stuff. And how are you going to switch with a bunch of 6'3", 6'4" guys? Like that's the problem with this roster, in my opinion. And that's why, that's why the option of having Justice play some point is attractive, because at least it gives you another 6'7" guy. Justice is not a true 6'7", but at least it gives you a guy with longer arms than Goran to play defensively. I just don't know how it works. They just have to clear someone out, man. Like, it's not going to work. I mean, I know you say you're curious to see Wade and Waiters together. Some of the guys at our network would say you're just like sort of a masochist about that. Like, I don't know. I don't see it. I know, that Deion wanted to be Dwyane, and he called himself Kobe Wade in college, and that he's talked about wanting to play with Dwyane and all the rest. But it's not a personal thing. It's just a basketball fit. It's just not. And Dwyane has found ways to play with just about everybody, and he's adjusted his game. But I cannot think of a worse fit for him in terms of style than Dwyane Waiters. He's never played with somebody like that, okay, who needs the ball that much, is not particularly high efficiency, right? And not only needs it, but holds it. Like, I was surprised by the Waiters Dragic thing working as well as it did, so maybe I'll be surprised again, but I just don't see it. And then you get to the other question here, which you've kind of mentioned a little bit, but it's not just about who plays throughout the game, it's who closes, sure. Right? So I was looking at some of the closing lineups that are options for them. A lot of their best lineups, had like Bam and Olynyk together. Okay, now that's not going to happen down the stretch. I'm not even including Hassan in this conversation until he sort of proves to Spoelstra he belongs to play down the stretch. So I think that the down the stretch lineup is going to always include Dragic, Richardson, and Olynyk, okay, for spacing. Even though Goran, we know, kind of retreats to the corner at times, I think he'll be on the floor. So those three to me are a given. If you're not playing Josh Richardson down the stretch, you're blocking his progress at this point. He has to play down the stretch of games. He has to sort of play up to those moments, which is something that didn't really happen when Dwyane came back. So who are the other two guys? Is it, do you go with, it's going to be Dwyane, right? If Dwyane is, right? And so it's going to be Dwyane. So the fifth is going to be who? Ellington?
James Johnson?
If it's Ellington if you need the shooting, but then you're tiny, right?
Sure.
It's Waiters was what he did best, right? During 2016. But can you put a lineup out there of Dragic, Waiters, Wade, and Richardson with Olynyk?
And Olynyk isn't even the best defensive big in the world to begin with. So
right.
That's almost except for Richardson, a group of entirely minus defenders.
Right. And so, all right, so let's say you put James Johnson out there. Okay, so you put James Johnson out there to have one versatile physical defender out there with Olynyk, with Richardson. Then you're choosing between Dwyane and Deion because you can't play both. With Goran, unless you're going to play Dwyane and Deion together instead of Goran, and again, I think not a great option. So Eric's got some difficult decisions, man. There's no lineup down
or
the stretch.
Pat Riley has to make a trade to make this decision easier. And that might be the best option. Now, I think it's been well reported that the Heat don't want to move any of their young players, but somebody has to move because there's way too much of a logjam there. And I would say the favorite would probably be Goran Dragic. Like, as much as, obviously the Kawhi trade was well discussed, but I feel like Goran to San Antonio made a ton of sense to me just in terms of where they're at with the point guard position and generally what they value at that position. But it feels like Goran right now is the most valuable asset you'd be willing to part with. And I feel like he's going to have to be the linchpin in a trade that makes this decision easier because this team is asking for a trade. The thing is, and this is what we've talked about over and over again, is that right now the Heat have a 3-for-1 roster. There is a 3-for-1 trade out there. The problem is that you've paid these guys so much money that a 3-for-1 trade costs you like $30 to $35 million. And so it's just not available. And so I don't know how the Heat end up solving this problem, but a trade or a major coaching decision are going to be the things that settle it.
And the big problem here, too, is if they don't make a trade, I haven't mentioned Whiteside down the stretch. We haven't mentioned Tyler down the stretch. So you're talking about $46 million sitting on your bench in the last 5 minutes all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you don't have Deion, you're talking about another $11 million. So you're up to $56 million. Mm-hmm. And then James Johnson, you're talking another $15. You're talking potentially $71 million sitting on your bench if you're going to play the guys who you probably should be playing, okay, along with Dwyane, to get the experience in those situations. Like, you're at the stage now where Justice should be the fifth guy, right? Like, Justice should be playing in those situations.
And what extension do you have on the cards for him as well? Because you'd imagine that if the Heat decide to make that decision to bring him back, that's another double-digit million salary.
Right. So he needs to play down the stretch. And so maybe it is moving Goran, but the problem with that is, it makes you worse this year. I mean, if you care about that, it makes you worse. And secondarily, I don't think they're going to get more than a second-round pick for him, because the problem is not that he's not a good player, not that he's not still effective, he takes care of his body, does all those things. But the problem with Goran at this stage is most of the really good teams have point guards already. Sure. So you mentioned San Antonio. Now, they really like Murray. Now, I know he was not especially efficient, but they like him. And so are you going to stop him with Goran Dragic? Maybe you play the two of them together a little bit. You don't have Danny Green anymore, so maybe Goran plays a little bit of two. That's possible. But you look at the rest of the teams, like the good teams. Boston doesn't need a point guard. Toronto doesn't need a point guard, right? Philadelphia doesn't need a point guard. I mean, they could use a player with Dragic's skill set, but he's not going to be handling the ball a lot there. Then go to West. Houston doesn't need a point guard. Okay, Golden State does not need a point guard. Oklahoma City does not need a point guard. Utah, maybe, right? Utah, maybe. Although Rubio had a pretty good year for them.
And Mitchell is kind of their ball handler, even if he's not their point guard.
Right. So which of the teams that is competing for anything this year needs a point guard? None of them. Washington, I mean, they're on the fringe in the East of contention, right? They don't need a point guard either. Indiana upgraded a little bit at that position. I mean, that was one place I thought could be a fit for Goran, but they did upgrade a little bit, at least with the backup situation. They have Collison there. So I don't know what you're going to get for him unless it's a team that just views him as a combo guard off the bench, which he's better than. But on those teams, they're not going to turn the keys over to him. So they're stuck, man. Like I know, again, our as we're doing this, as we're taping this, our guys are freaking out on the DM string about Jimmy Butler posts. But talking about who's got a saucy nugget about where Jimmy Butler's going. If Pat pulls that, what is he going to pull that off with?
Yeah.
What is he? I mean,
it's all the young players. I mean, that's really the only choice that the Heat have is throw all the young players into a trade and see if the other team's interested.
And you look at Minnesota's situation, like, okay, so they've extended Wiggins, right? So Winslow and Wiggins are not a fit together at all. Yeah. So like that's not an option. I mean, maybe Josh Richardson, you look at him as kind of Jimmy Butler light, I guess, at this stage. And you
think Goran's an upgrade on Jeff Teague?
Right. So perhaps Teague and Goran together would give you 48 good minutes at the point guard position. So, but they like Tyus Jones too. But yeah, they're in a mess. And so what Dwyane basically is a Band-Aid to me. He's a Band-Aid. I think this is a team that probably was going to win between 42 and 44 games anyway. And I think they're probably still going to win 42 to 44 games. And I think they're probably still going to make the playoffs. And I think they're probably still going to get bounced by Boston, Philadelphia, or Toronto. I mean, I think that's where they are. I think you agree with me. So I don't think it's a franchise changing day for the Heat, but I think it's something that needed to happen because otherwise
it's a narrative changing day. It's right. It's a make this season about something else. Instead of us talking about all these basketball problems that they have and their building problems that they have and all the things that have gone wrong with their off seasons, we're talking about Dwyane Wade on a retirement tour, and I feel like that's going to be the dominant storyline of the season.
Yep. So let's get to the rest of Dwyane. You've listened to us enough. This is a 9-minute video. If you have not heard it yet, there are a few pauses in here because Dwyane, this was pretty dramatic, actually. And I mean, he's done some commercials at this stage. He's done some acting, and it was interesting. And like what I do agree with you on this, Chris, is he clearly labored over it. No question about that. That comes across in the video, and so we're going to play this for you now.
When you first come in the league, the vets tell you, they say, young fella, it's going to go by fast. You think at that time, I'm just getting started. As I stand here today, September 16th, roughly 1:15 p.m., I'm here to tell you, it goes by fast. It's been a tough summer. This has been a summer for me that not a lot of athletes want to see this time come. Well, you have to decide if you want to continue to play the game that you love. Continue to play the game that you played for me, 31 years, since I was 5. Or if you want to walk away. If you want to do something else. If you want to clear the path and let the next generation come. And it's a lot of emotions that go with that. You ask yourself so many questions. You're like, can I physically do it? Can I physically get out of bed every day to do this? Can I deal with every step hurting in the morning? Can I deal with the travel? Can I be away from my family? Is it selfish of me wanting to continue to be away from my family? Can I miss my son games? Can I miss my son? Can I not be there in moments that they need me? Can I not read to my kids as much as I want? Can I not be there to support my wife? It's all these things, and these things to you guys may seem small, but to me, they real. I feel like my family have put me first for so many years, for good reasons. But I feel like it comes a point in time where we all got to think about someone else, and especially the ones around you that have supported you, supported your dreams, supported your journey, like my family have. I'll give you all a quick run through of my life. A lot of you guys see me as a 3-time champion, a 12-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist. But what y'all didn't see is y'all didn't see that kid that no one seen because he was small, because he couldn't shoot as good as everybody else, because he wasn't athletic as everybody else, because he was from the inner city of Chicago, because he lived in a town called Robbins, Illinois. Y'all didn't see that person. Y'all didn't see the grind. Y'all didn't see the tears. Y'all didn't see the moments where it just looked like it wouldn't happen. So everybody have these ideas of who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be and how I'm supposed to be it. I didn't have those ideas. I just had a dream of being in the NBA. And man, as I sit here 15 years later, how did I end up having a career and a life so far in this game of basketball that I've had? I didn't play varsity until my junior year. I wasn't good enough to play because I didn't play. I had 3 scholarship offers to go to school. 3.5. I had a partial one to another school. I had to sit out my first year when I went to college. I couldn't play. I got drafted 5th in the NBA draft in 2003, but it wasn't about me. But I worked. I believed. I believed that if I put the work in, if I laid it all out there, if I gave everything to this game, I can walk away from this game with my head up high. And people along the way, along this journey, told me, young fella, you can't keep playing that way. You can't keep playing that way. You're not going to last long. And maybe they right. Maybe they was right. Maybe if I would have became more of a jump shooter, if I became more of this, I wouldn't be sitting here at 36 years old asking myself, do I want to walk away from this game? But that's not me. You guys know me. When I'm into something, when I believe in something, I go 110% into it. And that's what I did. So I gave my body up. I gave my county up. I gave my money up. I gave everything up to get to that dream, that goal that I always wanted to get to. And that's the feeling of being a champion. That's the feeling of being a part of something that's bigger than you. I've always wanted that from where I grew up in the inner city of Chicago. I always wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than me. And this game has been that. It's been bigger than me. It's been bigger than how many points I can score. It's been bigger than how many times I hear my name in the starting lineup. It's been bigger than. So as I stand in front of this camera today, as I talk with nobody in this room, I'm talking to you guys, I'm talking to my fans, and I want to say, along the journey to people that supported me before the world knew me, thank you. The ones that push me when I'm down, the ones that tell me I can keep doing it. My family, my wife, my mom, my sister, so forth and so on. Thank you. But I also want to thank my fans along this journey, the ones that got a chance to know me, the ones that's tried to get a chance to know me. Thank you guys for the love, man. Like, Wade County. I have a county. A lot of you guys don't know because y'all look at us as superheroes. Kids look at you as superheroes. You guys see us on TV. Y'all look at us as superheroes, but we're human. I lost somebody very important in my life. And when I lost Hank, I lost a part of me. You know, I lost a part of that joy in the game of basketball. From a kid, we always play to make people proud. You want your mom proud. You want your dad proud. You know, at one point I wanted my older brother proud. When Hank came in my life, I wanted Hank to be proud of me. Part of this journey. And with him not being there last year, that was it. I lost something from this game. And me getting traded back to Miami, it helped. But it wasn't enough. Dang. So this decision is bigger than the game of basketball. This decision don't have nothing to do with the talent that I have in my body. Yeah, I'm not as quick as I used to be. Yeah, I don't jump as high as I used to. And boy, I used to get up. Yeah, I don't. But it's things in this game that I have that I can write a book on, that I can still do and I can still accomplish with an organization, with a team, with the right individual, with the right coach, in the right situation. But it's a lot of things you guys don't know that we deal with. And I have dealt with this summer to make this decision. And this is the hardest decision that I've ever had to make. But it's one of the best decisions that I've had to make as well. To be in this position. To be in this position that I'm in. To have the career that I've had. I can't do nothing but smile on it. I can't do nothing but just enjoy it like I've had. So this decision is not easy. It's not. And I've asked myself why and why not and what not and all these things. And I've heard everything from my family to my fans around the world of what I should and shouldn't do. But I've always did things my way. Whether they've been good or whether they've been bad, I got here because I've done things the way that I feel is right for me and that was right for my family. And what I feel is right, I feel it's right to ask you guys to join me for one last dance, for one last season. This is it. I've given this game everything that I have, and I'm happy about that. And I'm going to give it for one last season, everything else I have left. And when I walk away, I'm still going to love it. I'm still going to want to play it. I'm still going to miss the playoff moments. I'm still going to miss the crowd cheering my name. I'm still going to miss 20,000 booing for me. I said booing for me because that's what they're doing. But I ask y'all, let's enjoy it. Let's have some joy through this last season. Let's push this young team over the hump, and let's write our own story to the end of this career together. Season 1-6, internally we call it Sweet 16. It's coming to an arena.